I started out cutting the boards to length, keeping track of the order so the grain would wrap around the corners of the box. Then, keeping as close to the edge of the board as I could so I would not mess up the flow of the grain, I cut the miters for the corners. Because of the size of the box, I decided to use 3/8 inch thick solid wood instead of plywood. I thought it would be less flimsy than the typical 1/4 inch plywood used on a lot of boxes. To cut out the notch for the handle, I set the blade height to the thickness of the lid and carefully made several passes until it was cut out. Very carefully did a little side-to-side cleanup by rubbing it across the blade. Before gluing up the corners, I taped them together to act as clamps while the glue dried, as well as aid in keeping everything lined up during assembly. Just making sure that I'm reasonably square and measuring for the bottom. One of the most frequently asked questions I get is what type of glue I use. For most glue ups I use Titebond 2 glue, and I love this glue bot thing. Using the blue tape to pull the joint tight. Checking it for square, making sure the diagonal measurements match. To reduce the strain on the router bit when cutting the slots for the dovetail keys, I used a table saw to remove some material first. I'm using a simple jig to hold the workpiece at 45 degrees while I cut the slots for the dovetail keys. Before cutting the slots for the dovetail keys, I applied blue tape to the corners to help prevent tear out. Cutting the dovetail keys themselves was kind of a hit and miss operation at first. It took several test passes to figure out the right bit height and distance from the fence to produce a tight fitting key. I cut the keys to approximate length at the miter saw. After they are glued in place, I will flush cut them with a handsaw. I applied blue tape to the lid to prevent tear out and splintering. I measured several times before cutting it to size as I only had one chance. When drilling the holes for the dowel hinge, I used a plywood jig to help keep me square and in the right position on both sides. To help keep the lid positioned while drilling the holes for the dowels, I used blocks of wood cut at the right height to support it, and a shim to space the lid from the back so it would have room to pivot. To shape the handle, I picked a portion of my spindle sander that had a nice radius and used it to carve out the desired shape. I cut the handle to fit on the table saw and did the final shaping by hand with my random orbit sander. I used epoxy to glue in the dowels as it is gap filling. If the hole got a little oblong during drilling, this helped fill it and disguise it.